I now welcome our distinguished professors, Ambassador Gautam Bambawale and Ambassador Talmis Ahmed sir, for a wrap-up of the very riveting two-day International Relations Conference with the key takeaways. If I may request Ambassador Bambawale to kindly take the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Sukalpa, and thank you, Suhasini. I heard that interaction with great interest. First of all, I think what is important is after having had to cancel our international relations conference last year in 2020, the fact that we have been able to hold it this year is very significant, and we must thank all the participants. We must thank all the speakers. We must thank the team led by Professor Shivali Lovely, who have put this together. I think it is significant that we have been able to hold the conference this year, even despite this devastating second wave of the COVID-19 coronavirus. So I think that is point number one. Point number two, I think we have to also understand that this virtual medium gives us certain powers which we don't have in a physical format. So when you have to have a physical conference where people have to be flown in, many people are unable to come because of the large amount of time they have to devote to this particular conference, perhaps 4 or 5 days. This virtual format makes it possible for them to be involved with the conference for a shorter period of a couple of hours, maybe 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours. And therefore, I think in a virtual medium, we should be much more ambitious in the kind of speakers, in the kind of participants that we include in our conference. Which brings me to a related point, which is that in the future, we will have to do conferences which are hybrid in nature. So they will have to be partially physical in a hall with a small audience, well spaced out. But we can also use this virtual medium, which has become so technologically efficient over the past few months, to bring in speakers who may be in other parts of the world. So I think we need to keep that as one of our objectives and as one of the things that we look forward to doing. Coming to the discussions itself, they were fascinating because this is a particularly fascinating period of time for international relations. The COVID crisis, which has buffeted the world as a whole, has also produced huge changes, and both geopolitics and geoeconomics are unfolding before our very eyes. So we heard about concepts like realignment, we heard about concepts like de-alignment, we heard about concepts like multi-alignment during the course of this conference. And I think all of this is happening in front of our very eyes. So this is a very exciting period for people like you and me who are interested in international relations. As far as the United States was concerned, there was a huge discussion on that on day one. And there is very little doubt that even today, despite what many people think that the United States is a waning power, that as far as military competence, as far as military capabilities are concerned, it is by far the most preeminent power in the world, even outstripping China at this point in time, though China is trying to make up that difference and is trying to reduce the gap. So there is no doubt that we will need to work with the US in various ways, not only to balance other powers, not only to help us in our own national interests, but also because, as Hillary said, that he climbed Mount Everest because it was there. We will have to engage with the United States because it is there, and it is the preeminent power in the world even today. This morning, there was a very interesting discussion on Russia and China. And I think Russia is something on which most of us, through the sessions, have had a very broad consensus that India, there is no escaping engaging Russia. There is no escaping keeping up our relationship with Russia. There's no escaping from further building up this strategic partnership with Russia, because this is a period when the West is putting a lot of pressure on Russia, which is forcing it into the arms of the Chinese. But India needs to be engaged with Russia. We need to continue our relationships both at the governmental level, and we need to build the rest of the muscle of the relationship, the ballast in the relationship through private sector investment, trade, and people to people ties, which are thin on the ground. We need to focus on that. We need to work on that. As far as China is concerned, of course, once again, for the first time, India has one of the major powers of the world on its borders. And we have been feeling the effect of that since May of 2020. And there is no gainsaying the fact that we will have to engage China. We will have to deal with China in one way or the other. I personally believe that in the short run, because there is this huge asymmetry in power between India and China, not just economic power, but military power, technological prowess, scientific and educational development, we will need to build some balancing coalitions which will help us to protect our national interest and protect our territorial integrity, not in terms of any direct intervention through sending of troops, obviously not, but through through other means, whether it's geopolitical support or even sale of weapon systems. So we will need to deal with the ever present as well as a ever growing China, which is right next to us on our borders. And of course, this last session, of course, has been very, very fascinating. When we look to the west of India, we know that we have we have huge amounts of interests there, and how we leverage those interests, how we maintain those interests was the topic of this last session. So overall, I think over the past 2 days, of course, I forgot to mention the excellent inaugural address by the Foreign Secretary, which was very inspiring and which gave us a bird's eye view of what's happening from Indian foreign policy perspective. But I think the key at present is, of course, we have to meet the challenge of the COVID crisis, and we have to prepare and get over not only the second wave but also a third wave, and yet be able to protect our economic growth, our economic development, because in the shorter term, that is going to be key to how India engages with the rest of the world. One last sentence, really, Sukalpa, and I'm sorry to have spoken so long. I didn't expect to speak so long. You know, my reputation as a diplomat is I speak very little. So, as a professor, I think I've learned to speak a lot. But one last word, which is that I don't think India is going to withdraw from engagement with the rest of the world. So while we speak about Atmanirbharta, while we speak about self-reliance, I think that is only a step to engaging with the rest of the world with Atma Vishwas or self-confidence. And I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now request Ambassador Ahmed to also share his closing thoughts.
Thank you. We conceived of this conference in December 2019. It's like another era. It was a time of great self-confidence. Our economy was doing reasonably well. We had no issues. Our relationship with China was excellent. We had engaged a multiplicity of engagements. And what we were looking at is, as we come into the beginning of a new decade, what would we like to say to the government of India about the next 10 years? Therefore, you see the subtitle of this is looking at a diversity of India's interests, competition, convergence, and multi-alignment. These three options, looking at India's relationships with major powers, which would influence, which would be important. We were looking at Russia, China, United States, Japan, France, etc. We were looking at relationships in terms of competition, convergence, and multi alignment. And at the same time, we were also looking at concepts, ideas, which we could advise government on. That was the point. And yet, we were overtaken by the pandemic. The pandemic has devastated us. We had to postpone our conference. We couldn't hold it in the normal time. And the time when we finally have held it virtually online, it is an era which is very, very different. Perhaps some of the challenges that we had not thought about a year ago, more than a year and a half ago, have today overwhelmed us. And many of the fault lines at home, which were at that time papered over, or somehow we felt that we could get on with it, those have got exposed. It is a matter of deep sorrow for me to say that I had been a skeptic of populism and populist leadership, but nothing prepared me for the extreme incompetence of populist leaderships the world over. And much of the devastation that has been visited upon the world in general and in India in particular is directly relatable to the kind of leadership, the populist leadership, where an entire nation hands over its destiny to a leader, to a single leader, and truly believes in it, that he will take us forward. What this has been a devastating shock. From this, many other issues have come. We today have a problem with China because we were so consumed by hubris. Today we have a problem. We have a problem with China. Many of the relationships that we had taken for granted in the neighborhood have frayed. And India is not the same country that it was. We need to firstly rebuild the nation, not just physically or in terms of economic achievement, in terms of its self belief. The Indian has to now believe once again in the idea of India, the idea of India that has carried us forward for 70 years. We need to go and rebuild that idea. And on that basis, create the sense of self confidence, the arrogance, the hubris, this idea that there is a certain magic wand that will carry us forward automatically, the idea that a particular kind of relationship will resolve all our issues. All of these are now, as you say, water under the bridge. None of that matters anymore. It has been exposed to be limited, possibly even fraudulent. So we have to rebuild the nation on this basis. And from this will flow many aspects of our new foreign policy. The ideas that emerged in the last 2 days are relevant and valid. Scholars far better than I am have spoken about the limits of the US relationship. And then there is also a realism with regard to the ties with China and the importance of the relationship with Russia, the importance of relationships across Eurasia, and a new approach to Indian Ocean. The kind of earlier thought that there is a magic wand, the shortcut in Quad is simply not accepted by any of us. So I think on this basis, I think we have fulfilled the mandate that was given to us, that we must prepare the country, a kind of ideas which would see us, if not over the next 10 years, certainly over the next 5 years. So I'm grateful to the organizers for putting it all together in very difficult circumstances. My own colleagues at the School of International Studies have done a very valiant job of getting together speakers from different parts of the country and distinguished people with diverse views. They've all come together in one platform, an online virtual platform where we have seen each other virtually, but we have made a contribution for our nation. We believe in the nation. We believe in its future. We believe in our national interest. We just need to get it all together and to see us through over the next few years. First, beyond the pandemic, and then after the pandemic, the real challenge of nation building and taking us through in terms of new relationships. Young people like Dr. Alvite are with us. They will be the ones who will carry some of the challenges that have been thrown up. And Mr. Shashidhar, your generation will have to pick up the pieces and take us forward beyond slogans, beyond theater, beyond posturing into the real challenge of nation building. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Ahmed. And so with that, we come to a close of the conference. And on behalf of the Symbiosis School of International Studies, under the aegis of the Symbiosis International Deemed University, I take this opportunity to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for the insightful deliberations that we have been engaged with our distinguished chairs and speakers over the 2 days of the conference. We were fortunate to have the inaugural session graced by the Honorable Foreign Secretary, Shri Harshvardhan Singla. We thank the eminent leadership at Symbiosis, Dr. S.B. Muzumdar, Honorable Chancellor and Founder President Symbiosis, Dr. Vidya Yaravdekar, our Honorable Pro-Chancellor, and Dr. Rajni Gupte, the Honorable Vice Chancellor. Thank you, our distinguished professors, former Ambassador Mr. Talmiz Ahmed, Mr. Gautam Bambawale, and Sri Vijay Gokhale for your invaluable mentorship throughout. A special note of gratitude goes out now for the dedicated support that we have received from the offices of the Honorable Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, and the Vice Chancellor, the IT and Communications team, Branding and Promotions, DSRW, SKU, and of course, the faculty, staff, student, and the alumni of SSIS. A big thank you to our director, Ms. Shivali Lavale, for her dynamic leadership and continued guidance. And finally, our wonderful, wonderful audience. Thank you so much for the active participation and the pointed questions that make the discussions even more interesting. Stay safe and stay connected on the social media platform. Thank you and goodbye from us.